Today's guest is ex-leader of the United Democratic Socialist Party, also known as BandSoc. Having several fruitful solo releases under his own name, he previously ventured out as one of the guitarists and vocalists under the colossal grunge moniker Kraken, a band sorely missed among the many masses of headbanging motherfuckers. I bring to you your uni royalty, it's Tom Gulliver. Thank you for being on this week's episode.
Oh my god, that was a hell of an intro. That was crazy, dude. Oh yeah, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm just getting by. I'm doing this now as a thing so I don't go insane, really.
I've been doing a lot of just like, with COVID and everything, I've been applying to loads of masters and stuff. So that's fun.
The question I've been asking everyone is either when was the first time we met, or for people where we haven't met necessarily as much, came into contact with my band. So when was the first time you found out about us?
Well, I don't know. Because I'm just trying to fill out my memory here, but I reckon you guys probably messaged about some kind of Vamber event. That's probably one of the first times that we were in contact with each other, because I think your interactions with Vamber music was before BandSoc itself, and I was for the year of 2019. I was the bar music rep for Vamber College, so I was organising a lot of events at B Bar and stuff. So I think I helped out a little bit in organising you guys' first few events there, and also just came by and just said hello whenever you guys were setting up or just chilling. So that's the first time I think I met you guys.
Because I remember being in when I started in first year, and they did the meet and greet thing at the Warren. I remember you being there.
Yeah.
I remember talking to you, but you seemed very you had a lot of things to do. And I'll talk about it. I'll talk about that later because you're a man of many things.
I mean, that was the mental week. Every single freshers week is just absolutely ridiculous. You just lose all kinds of memory during it. Either by alcohol or just by stress.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not always typically by alcohol. It's by just having so much shit to do.
Mm-hmm.
So recently you released Happy Anxious, which is your new
Happy Anxious song. Yeah.
And I think it was great. I loved it. I was just wondering the song and how it came about. What were the processes, and then what were the influences on the song? Was there like a song you'd been listening to, or a band you thought, you know what, I'm gonna nab that, something like that?
Well, I've had like this song written probably for about 8 months now. I literally wrote it in like November, December last year. But I was really inspired by people like Julia Jacqueline and like more punky indie stuff, because I've been listening to a lot of new shit like that, especially female-fronted indie bands and just singers in general, just really good shit. So I wanted to write stuff which was a bit more personal, because I think a lot of time in the past I've been able to write lyrics which are semi-vague. I feel like there's a trap which a lot of like bands kind of could do as well. I think the bands which I've been in the past, it's always just been like general messages, but I wanted to like really hit messages home in the new stuff. So I decided to write literally like word for word about a night out I had where I ran home because I was feeling anxious as fuck, and that's what came out of it, and it was really good fun to do. The lyrics came first, and then it was the whole punkiness of the rest of it.
Whole punkiness. To be fair, when you're saying that, it's interesting because I've spoke to like some of the band members about the way we write, and one of our songs being was the vocals first, and like we love that song. We think it's great, and I think you saying you're doing the vocals first is interesting because when you talk to the bands, it's usually like guitar, bass, drums, and like that and stuff. But no, that's cool.
I think it's one of the only songs which I've actually done which had the lyrics before the actual music. I think it's a lot better, I feel like, to write the music and then put the words around it to make sure that the words are still like they actually have impact.
Yeah.
So that's probably an only exception.
On this single, we have the lovely Steph, singer and rock and roll star of EEM. What made you come to the decision of just like wanting to include a guest vocalist, and then what made you decide that I'm gonna get the rock and roll star of AEM involved?
Well, I think I wanted another voice in there, and I thought of like my friends who are in music and stuff, but a lot of them don't have a lot of, I know, not like drive to do stuff in lockdown, but I've seen that you guys are doing so much in lockdown, and you've been doing a lot of recording and like all the live videos you guys have done. And I was just like, I'm just gonna ask Steph because she has the equipment and I know her pretty decently, and we had some really nice chats, especially at the BandSoc final at the Fulford Arms. And you're all like, you guys are all extremely great people, so I was just like, I'm sure she could be up for it and do it. And instantly, within like a couple of days, it was finished, and I was just like, oh my god. So yeah, it was nice to have a bit more of like a joint kind of choral, sing-along kind of chorus, even though it's just like ooze. But it was nice to kind of have another kind of voice in there to contrast a bit.
Because with it, I like, when she told us about it, we were all like, fucking hell, this is great. You know, you saying it, because obviously you have a lot of musical, or you've had a lot of musical projects. You saying it, and I mean, she might not tell you, but she was like over the moon when you said it, and she was
really?
like all smiles and stuff. But it's, you know, it's just artists working together is always, you know, it's always going to be fun.
Yeah, I like just like involving as many people as I can. Like my other friend JJ, who's a singer and saxophone player in Dear Ramona as well. He plays a lot of sick solos in that song, and it just came together like some kind of like Bright Eyes-esque indie.
Yeah.
Good. It was just a lot of fun to do, and I'm really glad that Steph was up for it.
That why have you opted for the sound that you have and the style of which you enjoy? Why have you chosen to go down that path rather than mainstream indie pop, or just that kind of the pop charts?
Yeah, I think I'm just like a generally quite muddled person. I can't really decide what I want to sound like. So you'll find like a lot of my projects just like have just like tons of different kind of songs on there. Like I wrote like a synth pop kind of like sway song back in summer last year, and then I think about a year before that I wrote like a heavy grunge punky song which sounded like one of the heavier Queens of the Stone Age tracks you can find. So I think it's literally just because I can't decide, and I just try and do as much as possible. So I've really got to hone that down a bit, but I don't think I'll do that anytime soon.
No, I know what you mean with the kind of like being muddled up, because I do it with music and stuff like you're saying. I like Queens of the Stone Age and all the heavy stuff, and then I like synthy pop, shoegaze stuff, and the rest of the band are kind of the same. Well, certainly me and Jake are, and I mean like the songs we have in the band, and then the music we like is all over the shop. But I think it's the best way, certainly the best way to be.
Yeah, I don't think there's like any shame in it as well, because I'm trying to think of other bands which do it. I'm thinking of Wolf Alice, because Wolf Alice have like some really heavy material in their work, so they also have really chill radio shit like I think it's Don't Forget the Kisses or something, and other songs. But yeah, there are a lot of bands that do have quite a big variety. I think people should be afraid just to make music just because they want to make something specific, not something. Not have a consistent genre throughout their entire discography. Just make what you want to do at the time.
Well, it's like with bands though, it's like you see bands that are successful, they do somewhat change, and the ones who don't change are the ones who kind of mess up. And the thing with alternative rock, which is what we would be classed as, is it's this thing of, you know, just do what the fuck you want.
Yeah.
Rules, and I think that's something, that's what everyone should live by. Fucking life, never mind.
Exactly, because you can have a good cry and make good sad music, but you can also have like a bit of a bash and just thrash around a bit. You can do both. You're allowed.
I completely agree with that. I briefly mentioned, or just said about Kraken in the introduction, which was obviously the colossal grunge monster, which unfortunately I never got to see because as we were getting into BandSoc, I remember reading on must be on Facebook, it was the farewell gig, and it was the last ones you did. But where did the name come from? Because it's, you know, it's a pretty good name and it's pretty mental.
So all the boys in Kraken apart from me, we all graduated when I turned into third year. So it was just two of them beginning, and this was in their first year, so the year before I joined in New York. and they were literally just trying to think of band names, and they had a bottle of Kraken rum. That's really the entire story. They were just drinking rum. They're just like, okay, we're just going to call it Kraken for now, and it just stuck.
But thing is, it fits though. Like when I heard the name and then I heard the music, it was sort of like, yeah, like you know, it worked. But in terms of, you said that you hadn't joined when it kind of was first coming around because you weren't at university. How did you end up joining the band and getting in the circle?
It's a really cool story actually, because there's Freddie, who's the drummer and the singer. He was looking. Well, they were all looking for like a third member. I think the other two really wanted it, and Freddie was just like a bit more on the fence about it. But they met me at a BandSoc event, and I was a bit too shy to do anything. But I was very fortunate because I was wearing a T-shirt by a band called Dinosaur Pile-Up, and Fred, because Fred was just like, I didn't know anyone else at uni who actually knows who this band is. So he immediately comes up to me, talks to me, and then I think next week I'm rehearsing with him. I'm telling him how I can like produce their music and shit, and they're just like, okay, fine, you're on. And then we just kind of changed quite a bit from there, because it was very much like punky grunge stuff, and then it evolved into more kind of open, like I don't know. I feel a lot of the songs are kind of choral. So it's nice to kind of change a bit, and we had a lot of good fun.
I mean, I can say like I'm very annoyed that I didn't get a C, is because I would say that we'll talk about the label and all the bands on it, but like when I listen to Kraken, like I'm a bit of an arsehole when it comes to music. I'm very judgmental and I'm a prick, and I know I am. But when I listen to you, it was sort of like fucking hell, this is like, you seen Dinosaur Pile-Up, and it's like it's got the energy of that.
Yeah, I think it's wild to me how a lot of like first years, or of course it is the case, but I feel like a lot of people knew me for being a part of that band, and the fact that people who I've met in my last year at uni didn't even know Kraken existed, or like hadn't even seen them. That was kind of wild to me, because I'm just like, I thought my entire identity in BandSoc was around being in Kraken, because we had so much fun, and we were like always playing BandSoc gigs and stuff. So that is wild.
What would you say the other members, including yourself, when you were writing songs together, where did you draw inspiration, or where did the kind of bulk of the ideas kind of come from?
Yeah, because it's normally quite varied. Like we'll bring ideas to like garage practice space, and then we would just like jam stuff and find stuff to do. I tend to sometimes write using like software, like I have Guitar Pro, which is just guitar tab software, which I use a lot. And we would make riffs in the garage and have ideas, and then we'd go to like Courtyard and we'd get all the ideas into this program and make it a structure, and then all of that. We did that for about 5 of the 11 songs in the album. And this is the album which is coming out soon. It's just about finished. So that's good.
Looking forward.
Yeah, and that's basically how we write. I think a lot of the more grungy, like fast stuff is from Fred, because he plays drums, but he can also play guitar. So he writes a lot of riffs too. And that's not really surprising, because he's a big like Tool fan and like Dinosaur Pile-Up, big influences. And then all the solos and stuff is written by Joe, who's like the most amazing guitarist I've ever seen guitar live. There's a lot of thickness, but there's also a lot of like shred, and that's what I really like about that.
So you've mentioned how they were older than you, and most of them graduated and they went back to wherever they came from. Mm-hmm. Is there a part of you that wishes that the band opted to stay at uni to do a masters, or just stay at York, or would you say that it's give you more time to do a solo project and do your own thing a bit more?
No, oh my god, massively. I was really upset. It was a massive situational thing. Like, I think more than anything, I wish that I had joined uni when they did, rather than them staying around in New York, obviously. But yeah, they really made uni so enjoyable for me. Like, I think the majority of the good times I've had in New York were with the band. And it's not even like the fact that we were playing music together. When you're in a band, you have such a good friendship, because you put together this kind of bond between people that you can actually not do in any other way possible. because communicating with each other through music, even though it sounds really cringy, there's nothing else which can be like comparable to it. You do put this kind of bond and trust in each other, and you act as a cohort in a certain way where you just have so much more trust for each other. You just become one. And it does sound really weird and cringy, but they're all amazing people, and when you put that like experience with other people and you spend time with them outside of it, and like go nights out and all that, it's just quite amazing. I just like having friends, and that's what I loved about it so much.
No, I know what you mean. It's nice that like I was in a band where I was friends with them and then we formed a band, whereas this one, other than Jacob, I didn't really know them, and we did like literally a cliche advert where we're like, looking for a singer, interest must be, blah blah blah. And like we got, well, Jacob knew the bassist, Andrew, before, but I didn't. But like going on what's recently happened with coronavirus, when it sort of came out of lockdown, the pubs reopened. The first person I went to the pub with was Ben, my drummer, because he lives in Cambridge and he was in Northumberland. He got a train from like Alnwick and he came down to Newcastle.
Oh my god!
Sort of like, but that was the first time, and it was the first person I'd seen from York in months. But that's the relationship sort of thing, and like he was willing to do that because he knew it was going to be a laugh, and we got absolutely hammered. I was absolutely mashed. But no, I totally agree with the friendship thing, and it is a lovely thing when you're in a band with people. Like we put on that advert, looking for band member, but also looking for a friend. I know how lovely, how kind, and
it's brilliant though. I think it's such an experience. I think if anyone hasn't been in a band, they should at least feel bad for them. At least try and start one as soon as lockdown's over.
Moving from one colossal entity to another colossal entity, Lucky Boy Records, which is basically the equivalent of like EMI for North Yorkshire. Why did you decide to form, or start rather, an independent record label?
So it's quite a small label, because the thing is, the way it started was that I was in first year, and there was a really kind and amazing musician called Charlotte Hall, and she was kicking about. She was doing a lot of performances in the music department, because I was a music and sound recording student in the music department as well. And she wanted a guitarist to perform some like Fleetwood Mac covers and Queen covers at a concert, and I was like, okay, I'll do it. And we got to know each other quite a bit, and then she was like, can you produce music? I was like, yeah. So I produced her EP, and then I was just like, I'm going to produce a lot more music. I had already produced my own EP as well when I was at uni, and this was, at this point, we had my EP and Charlotte's EP done in like January. I was just like, if I'm going to produce a lot of people, I could put it all in like one place, and that was what kind of started the idea. If I have a lot of artists who I produce, I can put all their music in one place and release it as like a kind of portfolio for myself. And I thought about it more, and it became more like a family thing, because I was in Kraken, and we were all friendly with Charlotte, and I had these mates from home as well who wanted to put out music online but didn't know how to either. And I'd done it in the past with other bands and myself. So that's kind of how the idea started. And then my housemates at the time helped me put together some like graphics and like ideas. And that's how the name came along, and we made t-shirts and we put some advertising out. We did some like fairs at uni as well, and that was by like June. We had organized gigs under the name of the record label with bands from where I'm from in Bedford and bands in New York, and that's when we had Basic Shippers, who were a Bedford band. And then like a year and a half later, we have 10 that are on the record label still, and it's brilliant. And they're all amazing and different, and they're all amazing people and friends, and it does feel like a family. It is a small one, because it's only 10 people, but we all are like big family each other.
But it's like, I mean, it is nice, and obviously when I first heard there was a record label, in my typical mindset, I was like, oh, I bet you it's crap. And then I found out you did it, and then I went to listen to a lot of the bands, and I don't think there's a single band on there. Like, there's bands on there which really aren't my cup of tea in terms of the way it's done. the way it's done and the way you've recorded and produced and the way it sounds, it's like this sounds like a proper full-fledged like artist and sounds really professional.
Thanks.
But in terms of the label, as you said, there's a lot of different styles and genres. Would you say that the label represents your personal music taste as a whole? And then in terms of the process of artists getting on the label, would you choose the artist just out of nowhere, or would they come to you and then you'd make a decision, or was it just a situation where you just say, yeah, be on the label?
Start with the people getting on the label kind of thing, because it initially started off with myself, my band, Charlotte, and Basement Tools and Bed, and they were all my friends first, and then we all just kind of figured out ways to support each other. And then from that, Charlotte recommended an artist called Rachel Gow, and she recorded with me in February last year. And we've done like tons of stuff since. It's been absolutely brilliant. So it's all been like, it's always been like a friend first and then the label, because when I go into the studio, normally with an artist, I go, no, it's not with the idea that we're going to be on the label. It's more of an idea that I want to make something really good. And that's what happened with all the artists, apart from a few who I was already like really good friends with. So yeah, there is a lot of different stuff on there. Obviously you already know I'm a big fan of like indie stuff. I'm a big fan of also like Phoebe Bridgers and a lot of like really sad indie shit. So I was really happy to have stuff like Rachel on there, and some of my stuff along the same vein. But then you have a lot of like Mac DeMarco-esque kind of indie pop funky stuff from a band like Mickey Blouse. And he's like John from Mickey Blouse is a school friend, and he is studying in Sheffield with his mate who was trying to make this band. And they came up to York, and I recorded them in New York, and that's how that happened. But all the other ones, like Pineapple Hangover with Bryn in it, I knew Bryn as a friend before we started making music in the studio, and he had these songs in this album ready literally for like must have been many months before going. So he knew what he wanted. It was all about realizing that. So yeah, there's different situations, but it was never really. I didn't. It's not like I didn't like people coming up and asking if they could be on the label. I wanted to record people. I didn't want to like try and force people into this like family that people call it. So it was hard finding a balance between knowing who I want on, because I wanted everyone to like them in the kind of family, in the group. I wanted them to fit in like a new brother or sister, and that's what made the record label so special for me, because mostly like everyone's big fans of each other. They appreciate each other, and they at least support each other. It is a lot of fun.
With it though, it's sort of like, it's nice that you have this sort of position where it's sort of semi-professional, but it's also like, as you say, it's like a family thing, because it's like, I know that there are probably people who are in it. Well, I would say majority of people on record label, or who own record labels, who are on record labels, it's kind of they want the money and they know they can make the money, whereas an independent label like yours, or even other independent labels which aren't owned by major labels, you know that they're interested in it because of the music, and then a big part of the music is then the kind of people themselves. But no, that's a very nice sentiment.
I think it really helped being like in those obviously university setting when you just want to help people out. Because the thing is, what I love the most in music is helping people, and also that's like basically what I find meaning in life, is just helping people. So you know, that's a bit existential, but I really did want to like make sure that if the facility was there and there was that kind of support, and there were people who actually wanted to do it, then just do it. That's what I find a lot of times at uni. You've got to take advantage of what you have there, and if you don't, you're going to miss out completely. And I'm so glad that I did all that I did, because I think I helped a lot of people. And not only is it nice to have that kind of name for yourself where people would like look up to you quite a bit, but it's nice to know that people will have hope, and that they are inspired to get off their asses and do shit as well, because it is a lot easier than people think. getting new people.
I think,
have inspiration.
yeah, I think you're absolutely right with the thing of taking advantage and stuff, because I sometimes forget that being in a band and doing the stuff that we've done and the stuff that you've done, I sometimes forget like how not many people actually do that, and I sometimes take it for granted, and I think like, oh, I could do more, like in regards to like getting involved at university, when really like I'm massively getting involved. I mean, you do or had done everything like possibly do at university, which leads into the little discussion section. The question that I have for you is, I, like many people, recognise that you do a shitload around university, or did do lots in terms of BandSoc, the record label, just general things. So I was just wondering, how did you manage to do all the stuff that you did, and did you ever feel any pressure to kind of excel in every single aspect?
I think I was in a really fortunate position because I had the confidence in the music and the putting myself out there, and I think that's probably one of the only aspects of my life which I'm very confident about, especially at uni. But yeah, because I, like many people at uni, they will definitely go through shit. I didn't have a very good second half. Like, I think it must have been like half the second year, and then leading on throughout them, I just kind of started to deteriorate a bit. Whether that was just to do with mental health or just like living situations and stuff, I wasn't entirely happy with where I was.
Yeah.
So I found, because up to that point I was in Kraken, and that's really all I did, and I helped a bit with Bamba music, and then my reaction to starting to get like worse in terms of like mental health and shit was do as much as I can to fix that and do what I enjoy. So I ended up just recruiting double more people in the label. I did a lot more for Bamba music. I started the open mic, make it a regular thing in Bamba College, and then I went for chair. And I was quite fortunate because most of my time that I wanted to spend with friends was involved with spending my time in the music scene, because my friends were all in the music scene. So I just wanted to spend time with my mates, and they were all there, so I would just keep on doing as much shit as possible. And if there was no like events going on, I would go into town and play open mics. And that was my entire life for the second half of the year.
But with it, like, I mean, you were basically like, from the way it looked and from what we heard from other people who knew BandSoc for longer than we'd even been a part of it, the way you went about it as chair, it seemed like, I mean, you've said that you just wanted to make people happy and you wanted to get people involved. And I mean, we'd never been to any BandSoc events, and the first one we went to was Battle of the Bands, and there wasn't a single moment where we felt like we were excluded or we weren't a part of it because we hadn't been to any other things. And I do vividly remember you wearing, is it your Homer Simpson slippers?
I think they're in here somewhere. They're over there. They were my. I was a present for my housemate. They were Star Wars Episode 8 Porg slippers.
Oh, the Porg ones, yeah. Sorry, not the.
Actually, the worst thing that George Lucas has ever done is introduce the Star Wars and stuff from Jar Jar.
I mean, maybe it may be the worst thing that he's done, but when I saw you in there and you were trying to sort everything out, I just thought like, fuck me, this guy's mental. Because
you really can't take yourself too seriously, otherwise people won't feel very confident.
But we felt exactly that, and I saw that, and I was like, oh, I have absolute trust you'll be able to sort it out. But like, we never felt alienated, and we always felt welcome. Whenever we spoke to you, we always felt like, here is someone who is in it for the music, like pure and simple. And it was very nice to have that, especially with someone didn't know.
Yeah, it's been a problem in BandSoc, I'm not gonna lie, over like the 2 years before I was chair. There were several problems, and because the ex-drummer of Kraken as well, he was chair last year, and we talked a lot about it. Like, there was so much hatred towards like people within like the committee in BandSoc in my first year, because it was a group which was very much like it was basically a clique. If you weren't in the friendship group in the committee, you won't feel welcome in BandSoc, because they will either just take the piss or just like not give you what you want. And the events, there were just like hardly any events and stuff. And in second year, we tried. Well, Fred in Kraken, he tried to really fix that. He did such a good job. We made like a few events, but BandSoc suddenly became this kind of more inclusive like atmosphere. And I wanted to try and fix as many problems as I could in the final year, which I was there, by just making it as inclusive as possible. I was really happy to have Ali and Rachel both on the committee, just to have a lot of input as well, from like have some like female representation as well. Because with that kind of aspect of BandSoc, it was always seen as a very testosterone-driven society.
Yeah.
But the amount of like female fronted or like bands which featured people who didn't identify as male anyway was absolutely brilliant. And even people who didn't play instruments realized that BandSoc was a good place to be anyway for the social side. Like Ali, who was Sec, she never has really missed him playing an instrument, and she just loves the scene and just the nice people in the music scene, because she knows that they're all decent people. So having that inclusivity and the comfort there for people who are stepping into like an environment which could be considered quite unknown, especially if you haven't done music like that before, is something which can define your entire experience of music. If you have one bad one, you could never come back to it. Yeah. So we wanted to make every single event welcoming and different in a way where people would always want to come back and feel like it's more of a family than it is a group of people wanting to like push their own endeavors in music.
See, it's funny because we were talking about how it's been and stuff, and we were joking on that we're moving from, you're going about inclusivity of you, now moving to not plastic people, what's the band, Alex Thomas?
Pound Lad.
Yeah, Pound Lad, moving to a totalitarian dictatorship of Pound Lad. Because we found it funny when we were voting for who to be chair and stuff, and it was just basically like Pound Lad, Pound Lad, Pound Lad. I thought, oh my god.
They had it sorted. They knew what they were doing, but like, it's fine.
I mean, it's absolutely fine. We just thought it was funny how when it came up, oh, surprise, surprise.
Oh yeah, everyone is joking about it, but it's okay, because I do trust Thompson. Thompson, he is an extremely committed person to uni life. Like, I think I relate to him a lot, because he's one of the big like chief editors at News as well, the student newspaper.
Yeah.
And he's a big campaigner for like inclusion and all that. I think he wrote like an amazing article about cam girls at uni, and he interviewed a few of them and was just like telling them, they was like telling like Alex about how like they worked at uni and got their money, and it was a really cool little read. But I'm just trying to think of like Thompson is such a good dude, but Chris, who also went up to Charles, was also really good. And they're all, I think everyone involved in BandSoc has something to offer. So it was really hard, but sometimes it's more popularity. They could easily both do that.
Well, in terms of after me seeing your Porg slippers and knowing you, all right, the following person who, well, it was actually the first person who spoke to us was Alex from Pound Lad, and he was dead canny, and he likes brown ale, so.
He's like a lad, but he's also like a very huggable lad, and that's why I like that.
I know exactly what you mean. I went to see Joe Talbot. He did a DJ set in York, and it was with the band, and I was smashed waiting at the bar. And there was this band on who will remain nameless, and we were talking about bands, and then they passed a comment about university bands, and the general consensus was that they weren't very good. And they were a bit of a waste of time because they're not in it for the long run. So I was just wondering what your opinion is regarding this, and do you agree or do you disagree?
Yeah, it's a really hard one. I know a lot of people who feel the same. I think I've spoken a bit to people like Scott from Radietti, people like from Tote Chamber, and just a lot of different people about what it is to be in a band and what they enjoy out of it. So I think you should only be doing something obviously for yourself and what you want to get out of it. Obviously, if there's not a lot of prospects in the future for a band, it's not going to be it's going to be quite disheartening. However, I think it's really important to keep in mind why you're doing it in the first place. And if you have dedication, it can like make you a bit heartless when you're like doing a lot of like social media posts and all that, just spamming people's socials as a way to kind of get big. It does work, but like, yeah, it is hard, especially with BBC introducing in New York being like a hub for that kind of stuff. Trying to push your way through the kind of crowd over there is really hard. I think it is probably near impossible, and it can feel like that for a lot of time as well.
With that statement, like when I heard it, I understood where it was coming from. And
I do especially as well.
With it, it's sort of like I understand that bands in York who feel like that, but my thinking there is, especially the bands who were saw on that night and the people who were talking to, like, if you're basing opinions, if you hear a band from the university, your immediate opinion shouldn't be, oh, it's a waste of time. It's like, go check them out, go see what they're like. They might not be that good. If they're not that good, at least you know. And it was sort of this kind of generalisation when I know there are bands at the university, like you haven't heard Kraken, where's Slater, your soul stuff, you know, even Everything After Midnight stuff that we're not wasting time at all. We're in it because we love music, we want to do it, and it's apparent because when you listen to the music, it's not just that it sounds good. You can kind of, it's the feeling, sort of like, you know.
Just to kind of say as well, I think that statement about university bands, I think it can be something that goes across all universities. I don't know if he was referring just York Uni, but if it was like all universities, I would definitely agree. It's really hard because a lot of people do make bands in university, but that's like absolutely fine.
I think that's the thing. At the end of the day, it's sort of like when people pass comments about this or get worked up about things, it's sort of like, who cares? You know, when you're talking about music, to me, it's just like the music is the music.
And it can like sound like cringe, being like, oh, I'm just doing it for the love of it. But like, yeah, it is inherently very tricky. It's just where you put your priorities in when you're making. Obviously, a lot of people, when they're in bands and stuff, and they're getting like crowd reactions, they're just like, wow, I want to do this in front of loads of people and get really big and do it in front of people all the time, get paid for it. It's obviously not that simple. And I think people can have this kind of idealization where they're just like, yeah, I want to do that, and I will do that. And when they don't get it, it's really, really frustrating. So just don't set the bar that high for yourself and just do it because you want to do it and you love it. And like, if you're, in my opinion anyway, thinking about the people which Kraken reached and all the people we played, if people are smiling and having a good time, going back to how I find meaning in life, I'm helping them because it's improving their mental health by hanging with their friends, and buffing along and having a good time, and socializing, drinking a little bit. I feel like if you're making some people happy, especially people who you really care about, that's all you should care about when you're making music. And if you have something like, it was nice to kind of have the record label and being able to produce music and use it as like a journal. You look back to all your music you've made with them, and you feel like listen to it and just bring up all these good memories. Yeah, that's what I go out with. So by thinking it's a waste of time, I think that's a waste of words, because you're just like not thinking about the whole picture. Because it's not all about making music and getting big. It's about the journey. It's about the friends you make along the way.
I totally agree, even though obviously that hearing that statement is pretty cliche, but it's like it's the absolute truth. And it's sort of like, in terms of artists that I love, it's sort of like, I know there are ones who will never play venues that are bigger than 200, but I know there are ones who play stadiums and arenas and stuff, but like they probably get the same feeling out of it. Like, I certainly view it as, when you say playing to a few friends and they're happy and stuff, like, I would rather play to 10 people and I knew those 10 people were happy and maybe were going to make a conscious decision to change something major in their life, where they go, you know what, I'm not going to do this because I've just learned something from them. I'd rather do that than play at like sold out O2 academies where I'm just sort of a catchy song, or like I'm just remembered for catchy songs. I'd rather be remembered for sort of life changing, which is obviously very arrogant of me to say.
No, I do get where you're coming from.
I've not done that yet. Hopefully, maybe one day I'll be able to change one person's life. But we'll wait and see.
I'm sure you have already. Even if it's not through music, being present in someone's life is enough to change it. You know?
Well, yeah, I've changed my dad's life by making him too skint by saying, "Can we go to the pub?" I'm going to throw some things at you, and you've got to answer them as quickly as possible. So, what's your favourite biscuit?
Does Oreo count?
Yes, Oreo does count. I think
there you go.
Oreo's
double cream.
Oh, double cream, doubling up.
Yep.
That's insane. Too much sugar for me. I'll die.
Oh.
But I think like Oreo's like a one. I was talking to the lads from Tommy Rot, and he said Oreo, and Oreo's sort of becoming like it's like custard cream, there's like ginger nut, there's bourbon, and then like Oreo's just starting to become like one of the sort of staples. If I said that to my parents, my parents would just be like, "No."
The thing is, Oreo is strange because like I still don't really think there's a biscuit. Obviously, it's made out of biscuit, but it's more like it's too sweet to be considered that kind of snack. It's more like when you buy like a massive pack of like giant buttons. Like it's the equivalent of doing that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I know what I mean. It doesn't feel like a biscuit. It feels like sort of like an illegal biscuit. Like it's
So I'm gonna put a secondary answer. I'm gonna say ginger nuts because I grew up on those, and every single day before going to school when I was like 7, I would have ginger nuts and milk, dip in milk.
I mean, that is a delicious meal. I'd have that now, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But ginger nuts,
brilliant.
Everyone, I think ginger nuts are just like a universal like tick. Really good. The next question is beans or Mr. Bean?
Mr. Bean. But I do like beans. But we used to have a Mr. Bean compilation or like collection of Mr. Bean stuff in VHS back in our old house, and that's a classic.
I forgot how funny Mr. Bean is though, because I watched like clips of it, and it's just like it's because it's the comedy where it's just stupid. Like it's like
dude, it's so dumb. I love it because it's basically just like how random internet humor is now, but just like being silly as fuck. That's where Mr. Bean initiated that for a lot of people.
It is. I think it is funny. It's sort of like it also has that has a proper worldwide, universal sort of thing because obviously there's no like language in it. Because I remember Rowan Atkinson saying you can't really go on holiday anymore because everyone just knows him and everyone like comes over and goes Bean, Mr. Bean, and stuff like that, and he's just like, oh God's sake. The next one is describe Kraken in one word.
I'm gonna say unhinged.
Unhinged. Oh, fancy word there.
In many ways, because it's basically just like a massive ball of energy which can't be contained. And yeah, I don't know. It's a door that's still open as well because who knows if we can get back together and do shit. So I'm going to keep unhinged.
Fingers crossed, please. And then the last one is describe yourself in one word.
I'm going to say muddled. And there's so many reasons why I chose that. Because I don't know what I'm doing all the time, and I'm probably doing too much to make my brain go frazzled. But also, especially in my own music, I'm trying to do every genre under the sun. So there you go, muddled. And that is the end of today and this week's interview. It has been very, very heartfelt, and it's been very nice. It's been Thanks for having me. It was good fun.
Thanks for being on. I hope you've enjoyed.
Loved it.
Wave to all the 5 people watching. Wave. Thanks 5 viewers. Bye.
Bye.